San Francisco, Netflix is poised to shut down the DVD by mail rental service that set the stage for its trailblazing video streaming service, ending an era that began a quarter-century ago when delivering discs through the mail was considered a revolutionary concept. The DVD service, which still delivers films and TV shows in the red and white envelopes that once served as Netflix's emblem, plans to mail its final discs on September 29. Netflix ended March with 232.5 million worldwide subscribers to its video streaming service, but it stopped disclosing how many people still pay for DVD by mail delivery years ago as that part of its business steadily shrank. The DVD service generated $145.7 million in revenue last year, which translated into somewhere between 1.1 million and 1.3 million subscribers, based on the average prices paid by customers. 1A. Netflix, the streaming wars, and the future of American entertainment. The growth of Netflix's video streaming service has been slowing down over the past year, prompting management to put more emphasis on boosting profits. That focus may have also contributed to the decision to close an operation that was becoming a financial drain. But the DVD service was once Netflix's biggest moneymaker. Shortly before Netflix broke it off from video streaming in 2011, the DVD by mail service boasted more than 16 million subscribers. That number has steadily dwindled, and the service's eventual demise became apparent as the idea of waiting for the U.S. Postal Service to deliver entertainment became woefully outdated. But the DVD by mail service still has die-hard fans who continue to subscribe because they treasure finding obscure movies that aren't widely available on video streaming. Many subscribers still wax nostalgic about opening their mailbox and seeing the familiar red and white envelopes awaiting them instead of junk mail and a stack of bills. Those iconic red envelopes changed the way people watched shows and movies at home, and they paved the way for the shift to streaming. Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos wrote in a blog post about the DVD service's forthcoming shutdown. The service's history dates back to 1997 when Netflix co-founder Mark Randolph went to a post office in Santa Cruz, California, to mail a Patsy Cline compact disc to his friend and fellow co-founder Reed Hastings. Randolph, Netflix's original CEO, wanted to test whether a disc could be delivered through the U.S. Postal Service without being damaged, hoping eventually to do the same thing with the still new format that became the DVD. The Patsy Cline CD arrived at Hastings' home unblemished, prompting the duo in 1998 to launch a DVD by mail rental website that they always knew would be supplanted by even more convenient technology. It was planned obsolescence, but our bet was that it would take longer for it to happen than most people thought at the time, Randolph said in an interview with the Associated Press last year across the street from the Santa Cruz post office where he mailed the Patsy Cline CD. Hastings replaced Randolph as Netflix's CEO a few years after its inception, a job he didn't relinquish until stepping down in January. With just a little over 5 months of life remaining, the DVD service has shipped more than 5 billion discs across the U.S., the only country in which it ever operated. Its ending echoes the downfall of the thousands of blockbuster video rental stores that closed because they couldn't counter the threat posed by Netflix's DVD by mail alternative. Even subscribers who remain loyal to the DVD service could see the end coming as they noticed the shrinking selection in a library that once boasted more than 100,000 titles. Some customers also have reported having to wait longer for discs to be delivered as Netflix closed dozens of DVD distribution centers with the shift to streaming. Our goal has always been to provide the best service for our members, but as the business continues to shrink, that's going to become increasingly difficult, Sarandos acknowledged in his blog post. Netflix rebranded the rental service as DVD.com, a prosaic name that was settled upon after Hastings floated the idea of calling it Quickster, an idea that was widely ridiculed. The DVD service has been operating from a nondescript office in Fremont, California, located about 20 miles, 32 kilometers, from Netflix's sleek campus in Los Gatos, California.
Okay, yeah, I noticed that their library been shrinking. There's some you can't get no more that you could before. and I noticed that it may take about a day or two longer sometimes for the DVD to get to you. And so I thought something was up with that. Anyway, I heard rumors that Redbox is thinking of buying DVD Netflix, their DVD mail service. So we'll see what happens with that. If they do take it over and raise the price. Anyway, I don't watch DVD stream. I only get their DVDs because, like I said, you can get movies you can't get on the stream. And we'll see what happens by September, the end of September. Let's see what I got next here. Okay, this here from Taiwan. From the Register. Taiwan asked U.S. if it could chill out on the anti-China rhetoric.
We're trying to run a chip business here. Taiwan is keen for the U.S. to scale back on its anti-China stance amid concerns that scare stories about the dangers of relying on chips made on the island nation are harming the country's business interests. According to reports, Taiwanese officials have engaged in informal discussions with their American counterparts in efforts to tone down emotive claims that it is dangerous to count on chips manufactured there. Such claims were sparked by China's insistence that Taiwan is a renegade province which it intends to reclaim using military force if necessary. The shortages that hit the global technology market as chip demand soared early in the pandemic highlighted the strategic importance of Taiwan, and just how much of the semiconductor industry is concentrated in one small island. Last year, it was estimated that 48% of the global foundry market and 61% of the capacity for 16 nanometers nodes or smaller are based in Taiwan. Bloomberg claimed that officials locked in discussions called out U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo, who apparently condemned American reliance on chip supplies from Taiwan as untenable and unsafe. It cites, as usual, unnamed sources familiar with the matter. Raimondo was warning last year that the U.S. could go into a deep and immediate recession and face greater security risks if it lost access to Taiwan's supply of semiconductors. Taiwan is caught in a difficult position between China and the U.S. The island's semiconductor industry is a major contributor to its economy, and so vital that it can count on U.S. help should China invade. But Washington is now trying to minimize its reliance on imported chips by building up its own domestic manufacturing capacity through CHIPS Act funding.
And there's more to read if you want to read more about it. And what I think is going on here is that since we usually get our chips from Taiwan and the U.S. is trying to work on their own chips, and they're going to get China attacking Taiwan, and then we're not going to help them because the U.S. is going to say we don't need you no more. It's your life. Anyway, let me go to the next one now. This from Reuters. Japan prepares to shoot down North Korea satellite if it falls on Japan.
Tokyo, Reuters. Japan's Defense Minister Yasukazu Hamada on Saturday ordered the country's military to prepare to shoot down a North Korean spy satellite should it fall within Japan's territory. Hamada ordered the self-defense forces to make necessary preparations as he could potentially order the destruction of ballistic missiles, the Defense Ministry said in a statement. Preparations included making arrangements to deploy troops to the southern prefecture of Okinawa to minimize damage should a ballistic missile fall. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un said preparations for the planned launch of the country's first spy satellite should proceed to counter perceived threats from the United States and South Korea, state media reported on Wednesday.
Got on that one there, and all my links will be in the description box anyway if you want to go back over them. And what I got next is from Indian Country Today.
I don't really know what comes next, I'm just doing.
Indigenous Ryukyuans says it's time for U.S. military to leave.
Leaders say PFAS contamination from military bases are threatening indigenous lives and rights. This story is published as part of the Global Indigenous Affairs Desk, an indigenous-led collaboration between GRIST, High Country News, ICT, Mungabay, and Native News Online. Joseph Lee. In April 2020, a barbecue held at Marine Corps Air Station Futenma in Okinawa, a small Japanese island just east of Taiwan, accidentally triggered the release of 60,000 gallons of firefighting foam. There was no fire, but much of the foam spread throughout the nearby residential area, sliding through streets and floating into a stream. The foam contained per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, or PFAS, also known as forever chemicals. Used in a wide variety of consumer products, PFAS have been found in air, water, and the bloodstreams of humans and animals across the world and can impact health, causing low birth weights, cancer, and liver damage. More than 15% of Okinawa is occupied by American and Japanese military bases. In 2022, water tests conducted by the government of Okinawa revealed PFAS levels up to 42 times higher than Japan's national water standards, with contamination found in drinking and bathing water for roughly 450,000 people, about a third of the island's population. Local residents, many of whom are Indigenous Ryukyuans, say the latest firefighting foam incident was another example of the harm caused by U.S. military installations on their land. "What happened shows that they don't care," said Masaki Tomochi, who is Ryukyuan and a professor at Okinawa International University. "They don't care about us."
And you can read the rest of this in my description box. Yeah, Americans don't care about anybody, actually. Let me go to the next one here. This one here is from Insider. Agents busted a counterfeit money operation in Ohio after getting a tip about a suspect who sucks his thumb and lives with his grandmother.
A counterfeit money ring was busted as a result of an unusual tip from an informant. Federal agents alleged that 4 Ohio residents raked in thousands by using fake $50 and $100 notes. Ultimately, a tip about a man who sucks his thumb helped point federal agents on the right track. Federal agents busted an Ohio cash laundering ring after following the money, and thanks in part to a particularly searing tip from an informant. 4 Ohio residents were federally charged on Thursday with conspiracy to defraud. Federal agents alleged in an affidavit that starting in 2021, they used liquid degreaser to bleach thousands of $5 and $10 bill notes, reprinting them with $50 and $100 denomination notes. In the affidavit attached to the criminal complaint first reported by Courtwatch, a federal agent described a crucial tip that brought investigators to the vicinity of the money laundering ring in Ohio. In the affidavit, Special Agent Michael Dodig alleged that the 4 people running the ring used thousands of dollars worth of the fake money at hotels, gas stations, and even tried at a strip club before they were caught. Feds alleged that a confidential source helped identify one of the scheme's masterminds, Nathaniel Lee, and that the confidential source had seen Lee's counterfeiting process in a hotel room and had purchased fake bills. The informant then pointed agents in the direction of Lee via Facebook, per the affidavit. Full screen. In January 2022, the source reached out to the agent again and said that Lee was manufacturing a lot of counterfeit money in the greater Columbus area, Dodig wrote in the complaint. The source described Lee as approximately 38 years old, who sucks his thumb and lives in the Mount Vernon area with his grandmother, per the affidavit. The charges carry up to a 5-year prison sentence.
And that's all I got on that one there. Let me go to the next one here. This from Fox News. China's push to hijack enemy satellites could be game over for U.S. national security expert warns.
A national security expert is sounding the alarm on China's developing cyber capabilities after a classified U.S. intelligence leak reportedly exposed their efforts to build weapons to overtake enemy satellites. John Hanna, former national security advisor for Vice President Cheney, issued a dire warning Friday on China's aggressive investments in technology, arguing that their strategy is intended to disrupt, degrade, and destroy U.S. space capabilities. China and Russia pose increasing risks to U.S. in new space race. The future of warfare, one of the most contested domains, is going to be space. Space, in essence, is the new high ground. The country that controls space in the next battlefield is effectively, I think, got the best chance of actually winning the war, Hanna explained on Kavuto, Coast to Coast. If China is able to knock out our ability to see what the enemy is doing, our ability to exert command and control and communications between our own forces, it's virtually game over for us on the battlefield here on Earth, he continued.
And that's all I got on that. No, there's more to read on that one there, actually. But you can read the rest of my description box. Let me go on the next one here. This from the street. Elon Musk says the countdown has begun.
The billionaire CEO says that the United States will default on its debt. The question for him is when this default will occur and not whether it will. This is the debate that agitates Washington and worries Wall Street and the entire business community. Will the United States default on its debt due to political differences and posturing between the White House and the Republican House Speaker, Kevin McCarthy? The projected date for the default came closer last Tuesday. The income tax revenues seem to be worse than expected. According to Goldman Sachs analysts, the fateful day would be in early June rather than in early August. For the time being, Democrats and Republicans, who hold the key to avoiding this catastrophic scenario for the American and global economy, continue to blame each other for the current situation and the lack of flexibility. McCarthy outlined the Republican plan to avoid a U.S. default on the New York Stock Exchange on Monday, April 17. His goal is to achieve a one-year reprieve. This requires raising the debt ceiling. The Grand Old Party, GOP, his party, will only vote for it if the bill obtains budget cuts and measures such as the obligation to work to receive solidarity allowances, he said.
And there's more to read if you want to read more about it. Let me go to the next one here now. This one here is from Business Insider. North Korea's next nuke test a matter of when, not if. U.S. Army general says, warning it's on the way to a key nuclear capability.
A top U.S. Army general warned that North Korea is on its way to developing a key nuclear capability. General Paul LaCamera also said this week that Pyongyang's next nuclear test is only a matter of time. North Korea recently tested a solid fuel missile, a notable development for its weapons program. A top U.S. Army general is warning that North Korea is on its way to developing a key nuclear capability and cautioned that a future weapons test is inevitable. General Paul LaCamera, the commander of U.S. Forces Korea, delivered testimony to the Senate Armed Services Committee on Thursday about the security environment in Northeast Asia and the status of North Korea's weapons development program, which he described as concerning. LaCamera noted North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's statements earlier this year, when he said that his country needs to build up its stockpile of tactical nuclear weapons and develop intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, so it can carry out a rapid nuclear counterstrike if necessary. Kim believes a nuclear deterrent is the best means to preserve his regime and coerce the international community to lift sanctions, LaCamera said, according to a written statement of his remarks. He is determined to operationalize his nuclear arsenal and is developing a credible second strike capability. Having a second strike capability means that a nuclear-armed state's nuclear strike capabilities will survive even if the country gets nuked by another military, giving it the ability to retaliate with its own counterstrike. The U.S., for example, maintains this by having several options to carry out a nuclear strike, like land-based silos, bombers, and submarines that collectively make up the nuclear triad.
And there's more to read on this if you want to read more about it. I'm going to the next one here. This from Motor Biscuit. Most reliable American car brand will be made in China. Slave labor fears.
While foreign automakers have performed better for dependability in recent years, American car brands have a long history of reliability. This includes Lincoln, Ford's luxury division, founded over 100 years ago. And this reliability continues, as Consumer Reports rates Lincoln as the most reliable American car brand. However, in a shocking twist, the redesigned 2024 Lincoln Nautilus luxury SUV will be made in China and imported to the United States. Also, as we extensively detailed in a previous article, this raises fears of the use of slave labor in China. Lincoln is the most reliable American car brand in Consumer Reports' Auto Reliability Survey. Following its annual Auto Reliability Survey, Consumer Reports released a list of the most reliable car brands, per USA Today. Like previous years, Toyota and Lexus are at the top of the list. And all of the other automakers in the top 10 are foreign brands, except for one, Lincoln. It's the most reliable American car brand, according to Consumer Reports. Compared to the previous year, Lincoln jumped 14 spots to take 10th place on the most reliable car brand list. The American automaker achieved this mostly due to the high-level reliability of the Nautilus and Corsair luxury SUVs. The Corsair rates especially well for reliability, with Consumer Reports naming it the 6th most reliable car. 2024 Lincoln Nautilus will be built in China and imported to the US, with more models likely to follow. Given this improved reliability and the long history in America, it's somewhat shocking that Ford and Lincoln will move the production of US market vehicles to China. Currently, Lincoln builds its US market models in North America, which are all luxury SUVs. The Aviator is made in Chicago, while the Nautilus is built in Ontario, Canada. And the plant in Louisville, Kentucky, is for the production of the Corsair and Navigator.
And there's more to read if you want to read more about it. I thought we were going to stop doing business with China, but it looks like, no, we're still doing business with China. Okay, see what we got here. This from Business Insider. China doesn't want American cars anymore. That's bad news for Ford and GM.
American car companies' sales in China have been on a steady decline. The market has totally changed, Ford CEO Jim Farley said about China. Without China, American car companies will likely lean into U.S. electric vehicle sales. Chinese automakers are giving U.S. car companies a run for their money, especially as the momentum behind electric vehicles accelerates, and that could force the likes of Ford and GM to make some hard decisions. Other than Tesla, popular U.S. auto brands lost major ground in China last year, the world's largest car market and critically important to manufacturers. GM's car sales there fell 20% from 2021, while Ford's declined 33.5%, according to advisory firm Automobility Ltd. Full screen. The market has totally changed, Ford CEO Jim Farley told reporters at a Thursday charity event in Detroit. We're going to have to rethink what the Ford brand means in a place like China.
Okay, that's all I'm going to have right now from this one here. And there's more to read if you want to read more about it. I'm going to the next one now. This one here is from Business Insider. Russian jets are dropping bombs, rejigged, with a guidance system that are delivering devastating hits upon Ukrainian lines, report says.
Russia is modifying regular bombs to have guidance systems, a report says. They are a cheap and effective substitute for expensive guided missiles, which Russia's stock of is low. Ukraine has been calling for Western fighter jets in order to counter Russia's bombardment. Full screen. 1 of 9 photos in gallery, copyright AP Photo/Libcos. These battles and major moments have shaped a brutal year of war in Ukraine. 1 year of war in Ukraine has devastated cities and left thousands of soldiers and civilians dead. The conflict has ebbed and flowed in multiple phases, as both sides have gained and lost territory. Russia is modifying simple bombs to equip them with guidance systems, turning them into cheap and effective substitutes for expensive guided missiles. The regular bombs appear to be being converted to smart ones using UMPK, Unified Module for Gliding and Guidance Systems, according to Ilya Ponomarenko of the Kyiv Independent. Ponomarenko wrote that the upgraded guided or gliding bombs pose an especially serious threat to Ukraine that can deliver devastating hits upon Ukrainian lines and the rear front.
Okay, there's more to read. If you want to read the rest of it, I'm going to go to my next one now. This one here from Johnny Jet. 2 scams currently making the rounds that everyone should know about. I think this is basically for anybody that flies, travels to, to different states and countries. Let's see what it says here.
These days, with the influx of emails, text messages, robocalls, and in-person pleas for help, you really have to be on your guard every time you receive one. I mean, there are times my phone rings and the caller ID says my own name and it takes me a second to realize it's a scam. Personally, I don't click links, open attachments, accept Facebook requests, or answer the calls unless I know for sure who they are that it's safe to do so. Related, don't fall for these hotel scams. Travelers need to be even more vigilant. Unfortunately, travelers are easy targets as they're often jet-lagged, distracted and unfamiliar with their surroundings or local targets. I've written about so many different scams that travelers have to aware of that I've lost track. But here are a few of them to be on the lookout for. Don't fall for the falling lady scam. Is your hotel scamming you? Don't fall for it. Scammers are pretending to be customs and border protection agents. Cybersecurity and fraud expert shares tips on how not to get scammed when traveling. How to avoid vacation rental scams. Don't fall for these QR code scams. 7 tips for avoiding Black Friday scams online. These are the latest European travel scams to know before you go. I have almost become immune to all the scams out there, which is unfortunate since no doubt it's hurting legitimate causes and charities. If someone sends you a link, always hover over the URL or email just to be sure it's legit. Better yet, call your friend, colleague or family member and ask if they did indeed send the email or request, but even then you have to be wary since they might have been duped. Just last month, my wife got a Facebook friend request from my brother. Since she's already friends with him on Facebook, she asked me if the request was legitimate. I told her not to accept. I assumed it was a scam since he's already on Facebook. I forwarded my wife's email to my brother to alert him that he'd been hacked and he told me that the request was legit. His original account had been hacked so he was starting over. Weird. Weirder still that he didn't send me a friend request, lol. However, the point of all this is that I just received emails from a few readers alerting me of new scams and one is about Real ID, which I just wrote about on Saturday. If you haven't heard, the US government is going to finally, after years of delays, require US travelers to have a Real ID for domestic flights. Here's what you need to know. Reader J just sent me an interesting newsletter, which I'm going to sign up for, called Scam of the Day, Scamicide. Today's tip is titled, Real ID Scams. The gist of the tip is, no states are initiating contact with people by emails, text messages or phone calls asking for personal information to apply for your Real ID. An important thing to remember is that whenever you get a phone call, text message or email, you can never be sure who is really contacting you even if the email address, phone number or caller ID indicates that the communication is legitimate. This is why you should never provide personal information or click on a link in an email or text message unless you have absolutely confirmed that the communication is legitimate. The other scam brought to my attention today came via the Society of American Travel Writers, SATW. It looks like an old scam has been resurrected where people are getting emails from their boss who is asking you for a favor. Per Ari Lazarus, a consumer education specialist at the FTC, does your boss need you to send gift cards to pay for an upcoming office party? Before you go out and pay up, ask yourself, is that really your boss? It could be a scammer trying to get your money. The FTC's advice. If you get an unexpected email from your boss asking for this kind of help, don't pay for anything with a gift card. Gift cards are for gifts, not for payments. If anyone asks you to pay with a gift card, it's a scam. Double check with your supervisor. Call your boss using a known number, not something that was written in the email. Take a pause. Can't reach your manager? Talk to a trusted coworker or friend. Tell them the situation and see what they would do.
Okay, and that's all I got on that one there. They got more links here that you can check on. Yeah, I had friends on Facebook, one sent me a friend request, and I messaged him. I said, "Do you send me a friend request?" They said no. So I stopped receiving friend requests on Facebook unless I know them or they know somebody I know. And these links here right here, don't fall for the lady scam, is your hotel scamming you, and so forth. You can click on these. This link will be in my description box. It'll be marked under 2 scams currently making the rounds. And let me go to my next one here. This one here from Giant Freaking Robot. Something very strange is happening with the sun.
The sun baffles scientists with burning questions, but the European Space Agency has taken a huge step forward in studying the heart of Earth's solar system. As reported in Science Alert, the ESA's solar orbiter is capturing the most detailed images of the sun ever recorded. Its findings support a long-held hypothesis that small magnetic field reconnections account for the sun's immense heat. At its surface, the sun burns at a raging 5,500 degrees Celsius, or 9,932 degrees Fahrenheit, normal for a star of its size and kind. What has long puzzled scientists is that the temperature of the sun's atmosphere is even hotter, and it heats up more the further from the surface you get. The corona, the outermost layer of the sun's atmosphere, caps at 2 million degrees Celsius. This phenomenon is called coronal temperature inversion. Astronomers have long speculated that the energy produced by small magnetic field reconnections could be the source of the corona's extreme heat. The sun, like many stars, is made largely of plasma. It is a swirling mass of charged fluid that generates immense magnetic fields. In the photosphere, the innermost atmospheric layer of the sun, lines of magnetic fields twist together, break apart, and reconnect. When magnetic fields connect, they release a massive burst of energy. These connections cause things like solar flares, and they are a well-observed phenomenon when they happen on a large scale. Smaller magnetic field reconnections in the photosphere have only been theoretical. Enter Solar Orbiter. This craft is making a series of perilous trips around the sun to capture high-resolution photography that details what is happening in the photosphere more clearly than has ever been possible. Its findings have finally provided astronomers with observational evidence that small-scale magnetic field reconnections are always happening on the sun. The craft observed a magnetic reconnection that was only 242 miles across, just a little less than the length of the Grand Canyon. That is huge on the Earth, but tiny on the sun. At the point of reconnection, called the null point, the intensity of the magnetic field drops to 0. Its temperature during this period is 10 million degrees Celsius. For about an hour, that temperature is held as energy, and mass spews outward 80 kilometers per second. And that is what scientists call gentle reconnection. Null points can occur with far more violent and explosive results that are maintained for a far shorter time, about 4 minutes. The energy launched outward from the sun by these reconnections could account for the intense heat in the star's outer atmosphere, and scientists now theorize that more of these connections are taking place at an even smaller scale. As Solar Orbiter continues its mission, astronomers hope to get a closer look at this phenomenon. There is still a lot of work to be done in solving the mysteries of the Sun, but the ESA's Solar Orbiter is taking scientists' understanding of our home star to a whole new degree.
And that's it for my newscast for today. I added this last one there in case anybody is interested in the Sun. And I hope you like what I had, and I hope you like, subscribe, at least come back once in a while. And until next time,